Danger Dolan. The year is 1991, the golden age of 16-bit gaming, and of course the sequel to the original Nintendo that would come with an equally challenging library of games. So let's take a look at 8 of the most difficult and unforgiving titles, starting with number 8. So Earthworm Jim, if this game doesn't scream 90s, then nothing does. Now this is for the sequel. The first game was difficult in itself, especially considering the demographic it was appealing to, but the second game kicked it up a notch and then some. It may have satisfying and easy to use controls, but it required multitasking. When you're ledge jumping, you gotta have your head hooking on certain ledges, you gotta shoot enemies on the next ledge, otherwise you'll hit them as soon as you land, and you gotta do this all at the same time, and if you miss any platform by a single inch, you will fall and you will die. I would love to meet the kid who was growing up in the 90s that managed to finish all of these games, legitimately. And now let's move on to number 7. Castlevania Dracula X. Castlevania 3 appeared on my most difficult NES list, but Dracula X manages to trump the difficulty there in every way. Whereas in the previous games you could somewhat predict the enemy patterns and manage to avoid them somehow, in this game the enemies continuously jump out of absolutely nowhere off the screen, up, down, left and right, unexpectedly. Then you have some enemies that can reach down with massive unavoidable pole arms. You'll be walking along on a platform, it'll crumble instantly. Meanwhile you're wrestling with the difficult to use controls to actually survive. But possibly the most difficult part of Dracula X are the boss battles, which are fast paced and unforgiving, with the last boss being one of the most difficult fights in video game history. This game is worth a shot, but expect a couple of aneurysms. And now we move on to number 6. So if any of you guys played Prince of Persia in the 90s, you'll know that it has a slick art style, and the SNES rendition is in the same vein. You also have gameplay based on compass and movements where you need precision to avoid traps and solve puzzles. A lot of the time it just involves trial and error or being really quick on your feet. Most people probably remember the PlayStation and Xbox reboot that rejigged the franchise, but originally it was just a nice 2D quirky side scroller, and I personally enjoyed it quite a bit in my youth. And while this game is difficult in itself, it's the game's timer which expects you to do all of this as fast as you can, even though you really need to take time to survive through the numerous traps. It made the game 10 times more difficult and stressful than it needed to be, so you're going to be replaying it quite a bit. And all I can say is good luck beating it. And now we move on to number 5. A lot of people remember how painful this one was. It was super R-type, a side-scrolling space shooter, obviously. But just like with Silver Surfer for the original Nintendo, you take one hit and you die, but this time you lose all of your progress, you also lose all your power-ups in the vein of Contra. You do not want this. You need power-ups to actually get anywhere. Now there's really nothing else to the game, it was just shit flying at you constantly, not just in the random levels, but in the boss battles too. You need the reflexes of a panther and the patience of a sea cucumber. It would also help if you have the eyes of a hawk, because these tiny little pellets will destroy you immediately. Even just one hits you, you're gone. But now we move on to number 4. Contra 3 Alien Wars. We all know how difficult Contra is, and its sequels Super C. They were difficult on the original Nintendo. But this game is so difficult that you may never see an alien from the game's title because you'll be getting drilled so hard in the first level by standard robots and werewolves. And to add insult to injury, in the Western release, you didn't have a 30 life code anymore. You had 7 max. it did have 3 difficulty options, which would later on become a regular thing for the series, and you also had randomized boss patterns, which added some replayability to the game. And though you can go easy or medium mode in the difficulty settings, if you do not beat this on hard mode, you need to finish the game twice. So you need to pick your poison, either you play this game twice all the way through, which takes a long time, or you beat it on an incredibly hard difficulty and you'll be getting killed constantly. It is punishing and cruel and fun. And now we move on to number 3. Super Ghouls and Ghosts, one of the sequels to the original Ghouls and Goblins on the Nintendo. That was a hard game and it appeared on the hardest list, and this is a hard game and it appears on this list. There really isn't that much different from the original. You take 1 hit, you lose your armor. You take 2 hits, you are dead. The only difference now is you have power-ups in random chests throughout the level, and you need specific weapons to defeat specific enemies, which means because of these randomized chests in different places with different items inside, you never know if your playthrough is going to be easy or not. And just like in Contra 3, you gotta beat this whole game twice, which is laughable because beating the first level alone is enough of a chore. Clearly the devs were unfazed by the feedback from the first game. They decided to just ramp up the difficulty. They love it. And why fix what just isn't broken? And now moving on to number 2. Battletoads. In every list this title appears. You thought the first Battletoads was tough? Good luck beating the first level in this game by yourself. That's right. In the first game it punished you for actually bringing along a friend. In this game you need to bring along a friend, otherwise you will get nowhere. And in this game, enemies need special combos to defeat, because apparently just wailing on their face and caving it in is not enough anymore. You need a Street Fighter combo just to take anything out. All the difficulty from the first game returns, but amped up to maximum. And it's a shame they didn't make the transition to modern gaming. They just got left in the past. But this game will always stand as a testament to the term difficult as fuck. But now let's move on to number 1. Super Empire Strikes Back. The reason I put this at the top of the list is because it is really well known. And it wasn't just this specific game, all of these Star Wars games for the Super Nintendo were really good considering they were for a movie license, but they were also notoriously difficult. And this was easily the hardest in the Star Wars trilogy. So this game, just like Contra, has 3 modes of difficulty, but do not let that fool you. They are all hard. The only way you could get through this game was with cheat codes, and even those barely helped you since you'll be getting wailed on by dozens of creatures and falling down endless pits. And the boss battles were absurd. The health bar was unreasonably long, even moving off the screen. This game is all about trial and error, just getting used to what's going on, expecting 5,000 things to jump out of the bushes at you. It is grueling but worth it. Anyway, that is it for this top 10 list. If you would like to suggest another top 10, head on over to reddit.com/r/theddguides and leave a post. Have a good one.